A massive weekend last week in college football led to the biggest coaching opening of the season so far. A lot of coaches on the hot seat currently. A couple coaches I don't think some of us are thinking about as being on the hot seat, but are. And what better week to start out the first official episode of the Saturday's Unfiltered College Football Talk Show. Last week was unofficially episode 1. This is the first official week as we now have a name. And I think we're going to kick off the show straight with the James Franklin firing discussion. I'm Connor Bailey. We got Cannon Gerald and Jackson Gibson with us here today. Cannon, you want to go ahead and give us some thoughts on James Franklin?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you could necessarily say that it was something that surprised a whole lot of people. I'm willing to bet that James Franklin had an unfiltered Sunday. Just kind of when you become a head coach for over a decade of a program and get them to the point to where, 8 wins is a fireball offense, 9 wins is unhappy. You're 2 wins a game from the national championship, being national championship chins potentially because the eventual national championships you had in a 4th and 3, to tie the game back. So there's like a whole lot of games you can obviously play in hindsight. And if you even want to go on the short-term scale, look at 3 weeks ago. They were up 7 points in overtime versus Oregon, with probably nothing but confetti on their mind. So I think it's probably been a very fast, confusing week for Penn State fans. James Franklin, I would say that the overall consensus from Penn State fans has seemed positive, which again I just think is weird because if you're paying $50 million and they say Adidas is shoveling most of that money, but it doesn't matter. You're spending $50 million to go and get a head coach. You better have one you think can do better. No matter how you think about James Franklin, I think some people say it's a weird culture thing with him. I don't know how much better you can get, especially after Signetti's been pretty dang kind of surefire, and he's sticking with Indiana. I'm not sure if you guys saw, he literally put out an entire video today kind of pressing that on him. So I think Penn State football is in an interesting place that could plateau him as the program or kind of send him on a peak maybe.
Yeah, he just, with that video, he signed I think an 8-year deal with $11 million annual salary plus all the incentives with that. So he's locked down at Indiana. Jackson, you got anything else on that?
No, I mean, I just think I think Cannon put it pretty perfectly. I think they're in a really weird spot in terms of where they're at now in the head coaching search. It's going to be difficult to find somebody better. I don't know if how they quantify better. I don't know if that's, some guy who goes out and wins big games. I don't know if that's somebody who can just get them through a season. I don't know. But yeah, definitely a weird spot for Penn State. Definitely a interesting moving forward. So
so I got.
What would you guys say is like best case scenario for Penn State moving forward?
Oh, I mean, best case scenario is a coach that wins them a national championship. But
yeah.
But I mean, how many programs have won national championships in the past couple of years? There's
right. Yeah, I guess let's hear what you have to say first. Like specifically, I just can't think of there's too many names that could do better with what he did with Penn State. I think that's kind of another misconception that we have, that Penn State is just some historical football program in terms of success.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously best case, right? But like, what's realistic case? Realistic case is you get a coach who maybe is able to do the same. Like, is that even realistic? I don't know. So, kind of build off of what you were saying with the buyout. So they just paid him $56 million. Was it $56 million his buyout? I know it's spread out over a couple years. That's the rest of the staff is probably going to get fired and have small buyouts. Then they're going to have to go in and bring a brand new staff, which is going to be money to probably buy out their contract from the other school when they hire them. Then an offensive coordinator, then a defensive coordinator, then position coaches, then recruiting, then whoever else he wants to bring in. You've then got to deal with the damage and fallout from the recruiting class. They've already lost 3 what will be 5-stars in next year's high school class. A little bit more on James Franklin. He had Penn State up to here. The top of college football is right here, and here's the bottom. There's a lot more room to fall than there is to climb. And I get it as a fan. You want to win the big game, and I get it. I mean, they had to win the Oregon game, and they didn't. I don't think James Franklin was there at the end of the year. Anyways, I think it would have been a mutual parting of ways with other jobs that would have been open. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be out of a job for long because I think he's a really good head coach. They just fired a top 10 to 12 head coach in college football. And just another point, this is just in in general. The coaching firings aren't done like at all. Auburn's got a good chance of happening this week based off the result with the Missouri game. I mean, we all think Billy Napier's time is coming to an end. There's other programs that have some pressure, like Florida State. This isn't the only big job that's going to open up. This is going to be a wild coaching cycle. One thing I think fans in general need to kind of realize is that we're in a completely different landscape of college football, and coaches are still figuring out how to coach it. You've got guys our age making $2 to $3 million a year, at baseline a couple $100,000 a year. They can transfer at will. There's a completely different locker room dynamic. There's a completely different team culture dynamic when you're portaling in guys and bringing in guys that weren't your guys at first. Coaches are still learning how to do it. You haven't seen elite success from any program, maybe outside of Ohio State because they just won the title, but even they lost 2 regular season games last year, including their 4th straight division. Georgia has not really been a legitimate contender the past 2-3 years, and they're not looking overly elite this year. Bama lost 4 games last year. Clemson this year, national title expectations, 1-3 to start the season. So there needs to be a recalibration of expectations. I personally don't like the move. I think Penn State's a great job. I think there's going to be a lot of great jobs on the market this season. I think there's going to be a arms race, and I think with the money they just spent, I just think, Wisconsin and Nebraska did it several years ago, and look at Wisconsin now. They got rid of Paul Christ because he wasn't getting them over the hump. Man, they're gonna be lucky to win 3 games this year. Nebraska, they're ranked with Matt Rule. Matt Rule is a good hire, but even in their wins, they haven't passed the eye test after they fired Pelini. There's just a lot of room to fall, and the fans who are happy for it, I don't know. It's a tough one. I understand it as a fan, but at the same time, being a realistic person with college football, it doesn't fully make sense. But we'll start to get some coaching rumors circulating. I know Matt Rule's already a big name. There's a couple other hot candidates out there. So we'll just have to see who they bring in and what kind of staff he brings in.
Yeah, I think definitely for me it's a little bit confusing too, because I'm just, if your focus is the winning the big game, winning the games you should win, well, are you willing to trade that off for, like you said, all these buyouts are going to have to happen. They're going to have to overhaul the staff, and not to mention too the entire roster, right? All the recruits that we're dropping, you're going to have system guys that have been there for a little while, and they're not going to stay there because he's not there. So are you willing to trade decently guaranteed success for a rebuilding process that could take a long time? So
yeah. Ken, you got anything else?
I think you guys pretty much covered it. It's just hard to imagine. I guess it's not really that hard to imagine. You just kind of, as 3 Crimson fans, can be glad it's not us. Starting the season as we did 1-3, I think we kind of talked about firing a top whatever you think Dabo is coach in the country. You know what I mean? This very well. I don't think Graham Neff was ever in the headspace of doing that whatsoever. I think that was more so just lukewarm fans kind of being louder, standing on a higher box than kind of the ones who are rooted. And it's just kind of like watching a car crash. You want to look away, but you kind of can't. And I kind of think it's a good learning experience for all of us, because like you said, we are still learning. These coaches are learning. Nick Saban, literally the greatest coach of all time, retired because he knew that this wasn't the kind of game that he didn't want to, even recruit in, play in, have to retain in. So I think it's going to be different, and I think Penn State and James Franklin, we're used to head coaches getting fired and having these lucrative buyouts. But I think this could be the start of a trend. If this works out and Penn State's able to flip this into a coach that keeps them into a playoffs or anything like that, the kind of security of any coach's jobs, I don't think will be what they've ever been. I think that we're kind of getting to the point to where these rooted head coaches in these jobs are kind of going to start to get displaced.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, you saw Mike Gundy fired, second longest or either longest or second longest tenure head coach. So yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. So we're halfway through the season. We didn't have the show before the preseason. We all had our predictions. Let's do updated predictions. Don't have to bring up what we had preseason, but let's go playoff predictions for right now. We'll do the teams who have the bye 1 through 4, and then we'll go over our first round matchups and carry that into the rest of the playoffs, and then with national champions. Cannon kicks off.
All right, so we'll just do the 1 through 4 first. I have Ohio State kind of retaining that number 1 team in the country. We'll get into them, I'm sure, a little bit later on. Maybe kind of fell back to the surface a little bit this week in terms of kind of looking normal against Illinois, but kind of more so I think let their foot off the gas. I still think they have been the best team in the country. I think they'll continue to be the best team in the country probably until they play Michigan. So I fully expect them to keep that number 1. 2, I actually have Texas Tech, kind of not similar situation of Ohio State, but it is kind of, they have looked freaking impressive, man. And they have a test this weekend. Spoiler alert, I think that they'll handle that. But for me, it's more so they've looked as good as they have, and there's not a whole lot left on their plate after this week that looks like could really knock them off that pedestal. So I kind of have confidence for the Red Raiders to finish the Big 12 victorious and go in with the number 2. Lubach would be electric. 3, I have Alabama. I think the SEC is about to be a bloodbath, and we'll just kind of see who comes out on top. For me, it kind of just comes down to quarterback, man. Ty Simpson's a dog. I wanted to hate on him as much as I did. I should have realized when I was crapping on them after Florida State that saying Ty Simpson looked like the only one who cared should have been an indication for the rest of the season, not blame to be placed on that game. And I think that he's too good, too consistent, and cares too much for them not to be in that top 4. And then 4, I have representing the ACC, Georgia Tech. I fully expect Georgia Tech to kind of finish this season untouched in the conference. They obviously have more tests than what they have been, and they haven't looked really the best as the games we've seen in the past couple of weeks, like that Wake Forest game. But they know exactly what they're capable of. Haynes King is the exact leader I'd probably want in that locker room. If he's not going to fill up the stat sheet every night, I know he's filling up those guys' head with exactly they need to hear. They're looking at Georgia at the end of their schedule, remembering what happened last year in 8 overtimes, knowing that this is their chance to not kind of say they've arrived, because I would feel like that's how it kind of looks after Clemson, but really show the nation I've arrived and lock up the top 4 spot.
Jackson?
So leading off my top 4, I've got Miami at the 1. Miami to me really has just been the team that they wanted to be last year. This year is just, I feel like everything's like firing on all cylinders. They've got Carson Beck. They've got a guy comparable to Cam Ward last year. Obviously a veteran quarterback, knows how to lead his guys. Pretty high-powered offense, and I think the thing that really impressed me about Miami is just how well the defense has come together, and just putting together that missing piece that they had last year. Something that I thought, if they did have it last year, could have propelled them to higher highs, I guess. But yeah, number 1 for me, Miami. 2, I'm gonna go Ohio State. Again, I just think they're top-tier program. I mean, really, my 1 and 2 can be interchangeable. I don't think anybody in the nation comes close to those guys in terms of how complete teams are. Just with 2 of the greatest, or excuse me, just good on both sides of the ball with Ohio State there. 3, I've got Indiana. I'm a big Indiana guy this year. I think Cincinnati's putting things together. Obviously, they're very happy with what he's doing, with the extension he's got. So yeah, I think Indiana's probably my 3. 4, I've got Bama. I'm like Cannon. I'm a big Ty Simpson guy. I like the way they play. I think the Florida State game may hurt them just a tiny bit, but other than that, I love watching those guys play. So that's my top 4.
Cool. I got Ohio State 1. Y'all have already touched on it. Most complete looking team so far. Don't expect that to change. Ton of talent, great coordinators, especially defensively. They've got the best receiver in the country. It seems like they have it every year, but this dude, man, Jeremiah Smith's a little bit different than even some of the guys they've had in the past. I think that run game's starting to figure it out with Bo Jackson. They have a good committee too, but C.J. Donaldson, but Bo Jackson, I think he might start running away with the job as RB1 there, and if that comes together, that offense is going to start clicking. Miami, like you said, that they're what they were, or they are what they are right now. It's what they wanted to be last year. Absolute freaks of nature on defense. Pass defense has massively improved through talent acquisition from the portal, and then the upgrade at DC with Corey Heatherman. Great scheme, great execution on the field, ton of talent. Offense is clicking as well behind Carson Beck and Shannon Dawson at OC. 3, I've got Indiana. I have Ohio State over Indiana in the conference championship. I think both teams will be undefeated. I think Indiana will go into it ranked number 3. I think they'll stay at number 3. I don't see the committee punishing them for losing to the number 1 team in the country, and what I think will probably be a close game anyways, because I think Indiana's a really good football team. And number 4, I have Alabama as well. I think they could end up dropping another game, but I think the gauntlet SEC schedule that they play, combined with the conference championship win, will be enough to vault them over what I believe will be an undefeated Texas Tech, and I'll get to them in our round 1 matchups. Jackson, you want to kick us off with round 1 matchups?
Yeah. So I've got my 5 seed. I've got Texas Tech. I agree with Connor. I don't see Texas Tech losing another game. Even with quarterback dropping out, coming with the backup, that dude's still a dog. And I mean, with the Joyner loss at the start of the season, you just wouldn't even know that was such a big loss for them. So I've got Texas Tech playing USF actually as my G5 representative. I like USF. They're fun to watch. Watching that USF North Texas game, that jump is crazy. So like USF there. 11 seed at 6. I've got 11 as Georgia Tech. Big Haynes King guy. I like the way that guy plays. Yeah, just like Georgia Tech. 6, I've got A&M. I think they've got a great offense this year. They just contribute to that gauntlet that we've been talking about in the SEC. Like Marcel Reed. Yeah, got them in my 6. 10, I've actually got USC. I think USC beats Notre Dame. Don't think Notre Dame's in it this year. So I've got USC playing Ole Miss in my first round matchup. Ole Miss at the 7. And then at the 9 spot, I've got Georgia. And then 8 will be Oregon for me.
All right. Kenny?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'll start with the 5-12-2. 5, I have Indiana and Signetti. I kind of have them getting left out a little bit, just kind of out the top 5. I think that I'm not sure, honestly, how I feel about how the Big Ten is going to shake down in terms of who's going to be in Indianapolis. I think there's a lot of important games left, and I think you'll learn a couple things about how serious teams are. Like Jackson mentioned, USC. I think they had a huge week this week. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But I do also have South Florida as the 12 seed. Would not be surprised if Connor makes it a clean sweep on South Florida representing. That offense is just unreal. The game against North Texas is one of the games I've been excited to most for this entire season. I sat there and watched it be one of the games of the years through a quarter and a half. But the thought I had at halftime is South Florida's in this game, winning this game with 3 first-quarter turnovers. I felt it that it was a matter of time before they turned it up, and they did exactly that. They're the best Group of 5 team in the country. I think they would have beat Boise State last year, if you want me to be honest, easily. So I'm very excited to see them in. They got to go to Indiana. That's not going to be easy in January, especially for a team for South Florida. But we will see. And going to 6 and 11. My 6, I have Ole Miss. I think that this week kind of proved a lot in a way. They showed growth. That game last week was reminiscent of the Kentucky game last year, where they have big game the week before, and then they go in and just kind of blow it. They won the game. It wasn't pretty by any means. They were 24-point plus favorites, but they won the game, which I think shows a lot of growth from a Lane Kiffin disciplined team. I'm very excited to see this game tomorrow versus Georgia. I think that they could go between the hedges and actually get it done. We'll talk about that again later. And I have them hosting Notre Dame. Look, I think Notre Dame is already on the fence, and it's week 7. You know what I mean? They're in do or die mode. I think that's going to add an extra level to this rivalry game they have this week that we haven't seen yet, because USC honestly kind of feels like they're in a similar position, even though they have less losses. Their schedule just kind of gets insane during the end of the year, and this is really just one game that you can't lose. 2-loss Notre Dame doesn't get in whatsoever, but 3-loss Notre Dame, there's no chance. So I expect them to be hungry, fighting. They were kind of in this spot last year, obviously not as worse, but I think it's too good coached of a team to let their season go completely to waste. Which gives me my 7-10. I actually have Miami coming in at the 7. I don't think that Miami's going to hinder in terms of how much trust I have in them to complete the season, but I do think that there might be a crystal ball game in there somewhere. That game against Syracuse last year was absolutely unbelievable. As a Clemson fan, we kind of were excited, jumping around and everything like that, kind of just thinking about the implications it had on us, but there was no excuse. I mean, the defense, you could say that was the issue all year, you know what I mean? If you're going to blame defense for just that game, the defense cost them every other game. Should have lost against Virginia Tech. That game was just inexcusable with a guy like Cam Ward back there. So I don't know if they'll lose one. They definitely won't lose multiple. I kind of think it just might be a thing of Georgia Tech over Miami in the ACC championship, to where you just don't really know where to put those teams, and Miami gets kind of the crappier end of the stick. And I have them hosting BYU. I'm very excited to see BYU this week against Utah. I think that they have a chance to come out and show that they are really a contender. And I think that a team like BYU in the playoffs, one that's kind of been under the radar, would be able to make a splash and have some fun. Which leads me to my last 8-9 matchup. I have Oregon going to College Station and playing A&M. I really like Elko and how he has this A&M team. I think it's another second straight week of the line being way lower than it should be for a game that's playing against Texas A&M. I think that Dan Lanning is again one of the best coaches in college football. I think that last week showed a lot. I think that it's the first time we've really seen Dan Lanning get out coached, especially at home, in a very long time, especially with this Oregon team. But hey, I think all of us here are Indiana believers, so I don't think that that's kind of hindering our perception on Oregon too much, and I got some confidence in them getting that game.
Yeah, I agree with a couple of those teams. So I have South Florida as my 12 seed to kick it off. I debated moving them up, kind of how Boise State was ranked in the top 10 last year. I just think there's a lot of good teams that are going to have better resumes. I think South Florida will just get the G5 bias, get booted down to the 12 seed. I think they're going to go on the road to play Texas Tech as the 5 seed. We'll get a playoff home game with the tortillas being thrown, a playoff game in Lubbock. And I think Texas Tech will win that game. I think that could be a closer game than people think. But I think the size difference on the line of scrimmage will end up playing a factor in that. You'll see some heroic plays from Byron Brown. Alex Golish is an insane head coach. But yeah, South Florida, they're the team to beat in the G5 right now. 6-11, I've got A&M versus Oregon. Yeah,
so same matchup, just different seeds.
Yeah, Marcel Reed, he's just going to continue to grow. I'm excited for A&M this year. I think next year they could be even better with another year of development for Marcel Reed. They got Colin Klein at offensive coordinator. Receiving corps coming together. Le'Veon Moss is hurt. Of course, he gets hurt the week after I trade for him in fantasy football, college football fantasy. So that's no big deal. But Reuben Owens in his game last week broke out. He got starting touches. He's going to get starter reps this week, like legitimate coming in as a starter. He's a beast, former 5-star. They're not going to miss a beat, and that defense is just going to continue to gel under Mike Elko's leadership and just mind. And I think A&M will handle business over Oregon. 7-10, I've got Southern Cal versus Missouri. I'm a big Missouri fan, big Eli Drinkwitz believer. I think they're figuring things out. I think they made a couple tactical errors in the game last week. I think they got I think they felt the pressure a little bit of playing Bama at home, and not that they weren't expecting to be there, but I think the moment kind of got away from them, and they kind of forgot their identity a little bit, and that happens in big games with coaching staffs who haven't been in that big of a game. And Missouri's been in big games before, but not with that level of expectation when they were uh, 2.5 or 3.5 point underdogs to Alabama with conference championship implications and the race on the line. So I think they'll learn from that. They go to Auburn this week, huge chance to just get right, get back to what they were doing. They can still, I mean, they control their own destiny. They went out, they're probably in the SEC championship, and they have a lot of winnable games. They have losable games too, but a lot of winnable games. And then, so for that, I have Southern Cal taking that game though in round one. And then my last matchup for round one, I have Ole Miss versus Vandy, SEC versus SEC. I think Vandy's the real deal too. Diego Pavia is an explosive quarterback. That staff has it put together for this week or for this year. They do things. They have to do things a little bit differently at Vanderbilt because it's Vanderbilt, but they do it differently and they do it differently well. And I think this year they're going to get rewarded for that with a Vanderbilt playoff run. Although I do think it will end in round one with Ole Miss taking that playoff game. That brings me to the quarterfinals. So we have 4 versus 5. That's Bama and Texas Tech for me. I'll get more into my thoughts on Bama as we get deeper into the playoffs. They're going to win this game. Better head coach, better quarterback, a little bit better skill position talent, and defensively, I think they've still got a lot of room to improve. I think they'll take that. I then have a rematch of Indiana and Oregon, and I think Indiana will go 2-0 over Oregon. I think Signetti is just the absolute real deal, man. I think he is. Mendoza is my pick for the Heisman right now. Elijah Surratt is an absolute beast, and that team just plays like they have something to prove. And they do have something to prove because people still doubt them, even after last week. And I think they'll get it done 2 in a row against Oregon this year. I just think there's a little bit of talent deficiency in some key spots for Oregon, and it kind of got exposed because that game was not 30-20, and they had it at home. They had a 44-yard busted coverage touchdown in the first half, and then a pick six from Finney. And right after that pick six, with the crowd into it, Indiana just busted out a 12-play touchdown drive. Indiana's the real deal. Oregon's a very good football team, but they're not there yet. I then have Miami over. Sorry, I said Oregon. I have Indiana over Texas A&M. I forgot to change that. It's actually Indiana over Texas A&M. Same thing stands though. Indiana's the real deal. Better quarterback, more experienced. Yeah, a little bit of a miscue there. Miami over Southern Cal. Carson Beck, championship pedigree. They'll win the line of scrimmage in that game. USC is just not. I don't think they have the athletes at the line of scrimmage to handle that this year. And then I've got Ohio State over Ole Miss, and that'll get us to our semifinals. But I'll let y'all give me y'all's quarterfinals first.
Yeah, just to kind of keep reverse order, my 4 verses, it will be 5. I have Indiana taking care of South Florida, bigger, better. I beg that South Florida's not having to go to Indiana in January just because I want to see South Florida have a fair chance at that game. But yeah, so I have an interesting matchup between Georgia Tech and Indiana, which I do have Indiana taken. I think the Georgia Tech's match this season kind of comes to an end, and Indiana just kind of further solidifies themselves. I got Ole Miss beating Notre Dame after coming to Oxford and taking on Alabama. Kind of in a game that I'm sure all of us would be very, very, very kind of excited to see with postseason implications for Lane Kiffin against the SEC team. I do have Alabama winning this game, though. I kind of think the Ty Simpson's too good to let anything kind of get in the way of what they got going on right now. 7-10, I have Miami beating BYU in that kind of fun matchup. I don't necessarily know how close that game would feel. I feel like the box score would kind of be closer than the game actually would entail, which means that I'd have Miami taking on Texas Tech in the next round, which I think would honestly kind of be one of the most fun games we could possibly see of the entire year. I think that those teams feel each other's strengths and weaknesses better than two teams that you could put together, not to mention sick uniform combo would be going against that red against that orange. Would just be awesome. I have Miami beating the Tortillas. Wouldn't be a home game for Texas Tech in my bracket. So Miami, the Miami bandwagon faithful travels well. So they're going to be good if they're in one of those big time stadiums. Which takes me to the 8-9, where I have A&M taking care of Oregon coming to College Station. I just think A&M is the real deal, kind of like what you were saying, Jackson. I think Marcel Reed showed us last year against LSU that he was the real deal. I don't think the coaches really fully understood that, and now he's saying, okay, now I'm going to show you I was the real deal. Oregon, as good as I still think they are, they have their concerns, like Connor was saying. A lot more problems are seeming serious, more serious than they kind of seem to be. So then I have a matchup of Ohio State and A&M, or I actually have A&M beating Ohio State. I kind of think the only thing that's going to get in Ohio State's way this year is not being challenged as frequently as they should be. And I don't think that is comes from a place that the players would necessarily be affected by, but I don't think Ryan Day is the best schematic coach in the country. I don't think that he handles change and getting punched in the mouth, especially in games without the ability to prepare. Besides halftime adjustments, he is one of the better halftime adjustment coaches in the country, I would say. But I kind of think it's going to be if you have an Ohio State team that has to sit for, especially if they take care of Michigan. It's awful to say that they won't care about the Big Ten championship, but we've kind of gotten to a point in the conference championships that I guarantee they care more about beating Michigan this year than they do about hoisting the Big Ten championship. Because guess what? They didn't hoist it last year, and guess what trophy they did hoist? The national championship. So they know that the path to the national championship does not run through Indianapolis. So you have your championship game, and then in that last week of November in Michigan, and then you kind of have, a championship game, but what I would like to assume a kind of more mentally relaxed week. Then you got practice, and then you got the selection show, and then you have a week of watching the games where you're going to have a team, which I think is going to be at Texas A&M in this chance, sneak in, finally getting that prominence that that they're searching for in College Station. And in my situation, they have you beating Oregon, who was probably the odds-on top 2 favorite team to win the national championship this year, if not top 3. We're dang close last year. I just think it would be too much steam, so I got Texas A&M.
Awesome.
And I guess
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I guess I'll wrap things up. Mine isn't much different than yours, Connor. I've got Texas Tech taking care of USF. I've got them playing Bama. I think that could be a good game, but I think Bama takes care of it. I've got A&M taking care of Georgia Tech. As much as I like Georgia Tech, as much as I like Haynes King, what they've got going on down there. Like I said earlier, I like Marcel Reed. I like Le'Veon Moss, even though he's hurt now. But yeah, I think A&M's just hungry. I think they take care of them. It's been a while since they've kind of been in the position that they, like Cannon was saying, it's been a while since they want to be or to get into the position that they want to get into. So I think they take that. And I've got A&M playing Indiana there, with Indiana taking that game. Close game, but I think Indiana comes out on top. For my 10-7, I've got Ole Miss taking care of USC. Just like Ole Miss's defense, even though USC's offense this year looks really, really good. I just think Ole Miss takes care of business at them. And I have Ole Miss playing, obviously, Ohio State, with Ohio State taking that game. Then my 9 and 8, I've got Oregon taking care of Georgia. Then obviously Oregon facing Miami. I've got Miami coming out on top.
All right, go ahead and jump into your semifinals then.
So I've got semis. I've got That would be. Sorry, this is a dumb question. That's the 4, right? Before they
Yeah,
go into
yeah,
the.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Sorry. We
No, you're
got
good.
Miami at Ohio State, and then I've got Indiana at Bama. Yeah. You want to go ahead and make picks for that, or just?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got Miami taking care of Ohio State. I'm really high on Miami this year. I think they can get it done. Yeah, I think they go in there. I think they smack them in the mouth. They take care of business, and they're in the final. And then I've got Bama taking care of Indiana there as well. As much as I like Mendoza, as much as I like Signetti, man, I really like this Bama team this year. So I've got Bama and Miami for the final game.
Ken?
Who you got taking that one?
Miami. Got Miami running the table. Yep.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to go because yours kind of sounded very similar to mine. So my 4 would leave me with Texas A&M playing Indiana, and probably the most unpredictable matchup of all time preseason, which
Yeah.
I would have Coach Kurt Zanetti and the Indiana Hoosiers taking that game. I think they'd be bigger. I think they'd be tougher, and I think they'd be playing for a freaking national title, man, which would be just absolutely awesome. And then now, if you want to go into every single bandwagon's kind of wet dream, my other semifinal matchup would be Miami and Alabama, which would be a national championship precursor to the national championship of college football fans that watch 2 weeks out of the year. Like the ratings for this game, I would be very interested if we could get some sort of like itemized list that shows like how many people click off and click back on the game, because this would break all sorts of records for that. And I think Miami's season continues. I also have Miami going to the national championship and kind of continuing this crystal ball-esque season. You know what I mean? So then I would have a national championship of Miami and Indiana. And as much as I want to sit here and tell you that I have Indiana winning the national championship, I don't. I have Miami kind of taking it. I think that they're fast. I think they're explosive. I think that offense is just as dangerous as they were last year with the freaking defense. And that just kind of seems like an unstoppable situation to me, because let's be honest, in Miami's past 21 games of football, they've looked stoppable 0 times and they've been stopped once. That's just the honest truth. So I think that that's a good realization with the program. And I would think that Miami wins a very good game against Indiana. I think it'd be one of the better national championships we saw lately.
All right, yeah, so I've got Bama over Ohio State in the semifinals. Ty Simpson will get it done. And then I've got Miami over Indiana. At some point, athletes matter. They just don't have the talent level that a team like Miami does, nor the pedigree at quarterback. Carson Beck's been there. That's going to give us Bama, Miami in the championship. And Kalen DeBar has proven that he wins the big games. He wins one-possession games. Some people say there's luck involved in that. I would agree, but I also think there's skill. And that man is a killer in one-possession games. I don't know what it is that it is in that man's DNA as a coach to have his team win the big game. It probably comes down to like a Caden Proctor Wildcat situation, and an offensive lineman wins it. That's what it's been the past couple weeks. Caden Proctor's just made a game-changing play, a 320-pound man catching a screen pass and just busting through some defenders. Takes 4 or 5 guys to bring him down. Yeah, I'll take Bama over Miami for my national championship pick halfway through the season. Did not think Miami would be here. Did not think Indiana would be here. And I was a little bit lower on Texas Tech. I had them losing the Big 12 in my preseason. So them getting to the quarterfinals would be awesome for me. And then you've obviously got Vandy and Missouri in my bracket. A&M is a good little surprise for me too. I was unsure what to expect of them, but the season's shaping up to be a good one, and all of our playoff predictions are fairly similar. A couple of different seedings here and there, a couple of different teams in round one. But that leads us to this week of games where some of these predictions can kind of get thrown off course because we have a massive week of games. It just seems like every week gets bigger and bigger with important games. And we have a lot of playoff football being played in Week 6. So let's get started with a couple, lower key games. Let's just break them down really quick. Couple quick thoughts, make a pick, and then we'll get into some of the bigger games of the week with some longer breakdowns. But let's start with Miami Louisville.
Yeah, just kind of start this off again as using only what I know as a Clemson fan. Friday night against Louisville scares the crap out of me. I think this is one of the few tests that Miami actually has left, but I'm fully confident Miami. If anything, I would think that the first half would kind of be a slap in the face that they haven't had in a couple of weeks, but I think that they'll fully win by double digits.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think this is like you said, Kenny. I think this is pretty much the last test Miami faces before. I mean, even if the ACC championship probably wouldn't even matter at that point. Yeah, I think this is the one team that could challenge them, but I think Miami takes care of business. I really do.
Yeah, Miami takes this and wins. They haven't left the state of Florida yet. This does start like a 6 or 7 game straight stretch for them of games. It's a tough one on a Friday night, but they're the better team, and they'll get it done. Next up is Oklahoma, South Carolina. So last week for me, South Carolina was kind of like a sneaky upset pick for me. I thought they would go into LSU and win, and they didn't. They scored 10 points. Man, if they don't have special teams or defensive touchdowns, they don't have anything on the scoreboard. Ken, you sent in the stat a couple of days ago that they might have one category in the top 100 of offense. They have so many critical categories outside the top 100. It's been an absolute disaster on offense. I didn't think it would be great this year, but this has been far worse than I thought. Lenore's has regressed, at least in production. He's still a great dynamic playmaker. Oklahoma's coming to town. They just took a punch in the mouth to Texas. I think the coaching staff is good. I think Mateer is good. I think defensively they'll be able to do what they did to Auburn. I don't know if they'll have 9 sacks, but they're going to be able to disrupt this game enough, get the crowd kind of out of it. Oklahoma will win this game. As long as they don't give up big plays like they did last year, where South Carolina scored 21 non-offensive points.
Yeah, I'm with that. I think Mike Shula's his seat's getting really hot at South Carolina, and I think this just comes down to offense, like you were saying, offense and defense. I think Oklahoma's defense is just South Carolina just doesn't match up well with them offensively. So I think Oklahoma takes this.
The only reason I'm not taking South Carolina to win this game is because it's not a night game. This is a night game in October. They take this 10 out of 10 times. But Oklahoma kind of – I don't think that it'll look pretty by any means, but I think that they'll be good enough to get it done.
Yeah, so now we have Big 12 showdown, a game that preseason had so much more hype around it. Arizona State and Texas Tech. I mean, Scatabo is a huge loss. They're still figuring it out offensively. I think Sam Leavitt's finally healthy. But, man, Texas Tech is focused. Texas Tech is talented. Arizona State, yeah, they could cover. They could. I think Texas Tech will win and cover. I think that they are just getting better and better each week. I know their QB is hurt, but, man, their QB got hurt against Utah when it was 10-10, and they ended up winning 34-10 with the second string in. They've already dealt with their starting running back going out, and they've just hit it in stride. Their running back Dickey is top 15 in the country, I think, in rushing yards or somewhere close. And then they also have another guy that fills in really nice. They attack the passer, they attack the ball. They're a really good football team. I think that they are a national title contender as a Big 12 team, and they're going to beat Arizona State this week.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech realizes that this is Arizona State's maybe like, besides BYU, is probably their last test. So I think, like you said, Connor, very focused. I think they take it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's really too much to add. I think that this is probably going to be one of the most motivated teams that they get this left on their schedule. Obviously, we know it's Sam Leavitt. and that coach are able to do. They were shut down by Mississippi State, though. There's nothing that kind of intimidates me too much about them in terms of Texas Tech.
Yeah, I agree. They're gonna get Texas Tech's gonna get their best shot because they kind of have to. But yeah, I agree with y'all. Missouri Auburn. Hugh Freeze hot seat is pretty hot. I think this week, if it doesn't go their way, we could end up with another coaching opening. I mean, they got the wrong end of the stick against Oklahoma, and they certainly did against Georgia. But it doesn't change the fact that they don't have a good passing game. Jackson Arnold is not a good thrower of the football. Their offensive line is not very good. Missouri sneakily has one of the best pass rushers in the country. They can run the ball like nobody's business. That's what makes the Bama win so impressive last week, because they held Ahmad Hardy to 52 rushing yards. Missouri's going to go into Jordan Hare and win this game, keep their season on track, kind of turn it back around after a loss last week, and they're going to put a dagger into the hopes of Auburn for the rest of the year.
Yeah, not much to add on my end. I mean, I don't like Auburn's O line. I don't like Jackson Arnold's arm. I like Missouri's defense. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's kind of unfair to Hugh Freeze that this game is probably going to be the one that puts the nail in his coffin, just because of how good and much I respect this Missouri football team. I also think that there's an extreme possibility that Missouri's first time leaving home this year doesn't go as planned. I think that is one of the most under-talked about and ridiculous kind of scheduling things this year. I think Auburn is not a good football team, definitely not a great football team, but to say they're an incompetent football team would just be wrong to me. They haven't played, I would say. The record doesn't resemble how close a lot of these games have been. As you will, Georgia, you could argue they got absolutely hosed by a couple calls. Kirby Smart putting on a Oscar-level performance to the referees to emphasize a timeout. I mean, Oklahoma, there's like one of the most probably debatable plays the entire season. You know what I mean? That some people would institute as cheating. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Auburn can't win this football game. They probably won't, just because that's Auburn football this year. Because they probably won't. You know what I mean? They show you kind of something that you want to see, and then the offense just shuts down. I mean, they had Georgia right where they wanted them, and they couldn't do it. And it's kind of the same thing we talked about last week. The last team that you want in the country that just have to milk a clock against is Missouri. It's Missouri.
Yeah.
So I have full faith that Missouri will kind of go in there and handle business.
Yeah, just to
this next game. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Just to build off of that, I kind of think Auburn team is out of gas. I think last week was their moment to kind of reignite, and I don't think they did. And then what you said perfectly, or said was perfect. It's been Auburn football this year. It's been Auburn football last year. You got to have some kind of X factor to be able to win a close game, and they just have not had that. So, yeah, I don't disagree that it could be close. I actually don't think it will be, though, but it definitely could. At the end of the day, I still think, it's not going to matter. But, yeah, go ahead and pick us up with the next game.
Yeah, this is one of the kind of, I guess I wouldn't say most excited for games, but kind of one of those games with a lot of underlying value. I would say in terms of Washington season, we know what Michigan is. I think everyone knows what Michigan is this year. Not a super competitive team in terms of national championship, but they're a competent team as well. I think we're going to be super excited to see what Bryce Underwood can do with kind of a lackluster receiving core and an offense that doesn't really have a whole lot to talk about every week. But, man, if Washington wins this game, it kind of makes Washington's season that much more interesting. They have a couple big games down the road, maybe not even thinking about themselves. People would say, oh, well, yeah, if they beat Ohio State, we'd be talking about Washington. Obviously, Ohio State is the best team in the country. But Ohio State looked uncomfortable. I don't think that Ryan Day kind of pressed the foot on his gas as hard as he could, and that was kind of, the style of Ohio State the first couple weeks, is maybe not revealing all their tricks at once, just kind of doing what's good enough to win, not what's good enough to kill. But I don't see any better chance for a team to kind of right, not a wrong of their season, but to capitalize and get the absolute most they can get out of the season than Washington against Michigan this week. And I think that they'll do it. I think that Michigan, depending on how big the donors and fans or stuff are into this season, they have a chance to kind of fully be done with this kind of coaching experiment. Really just kind of look for the most concrete thing for their future, and their season could go off the rails very easily just off how their fan base is. But I think Washington fans will be a lot more excited for Saturdays after this week.
Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like Washington a lot in this game. I like Washington's offense a lot. I think I agree with you, Cannon. Really, that Ohio State game, even though they did drop that game, and it was, I mean, it was Ohio State's game all game. I still liked a lot of what I saw on offense, and yeah, I think you're right. I think it comes down to just Michigan not having those weapons, and I think Washington just outscores them, outlasts them. So I like Washington for this game.
Yeah, last year this was like sneakily one of the most underrated games of the year. So such a competitive matchup. It's such a great color matchup too. The Michigan maize and blue against the Washington purple. But yeah, I mean Michigan. The past 2 years they've just kind of been allergic to the forward pass. I don't know if they really know what that is anymore up there. Because it just hasn't been there, especially last year. Bryce Underwood, he's a good quarterback. He's a true freshman. I don't like the spot for Michigan. It definitely is a point of kind of like desperation. They do have to win this game, but I don't know if I trust a freshman quarterback to do that. I think Damon Williams, super underrated quarterback. I think that offense is starting to peak. Jed Fish is a great head coach. I'm going to take Washington to cover this one as well, or win this one as well. Cannon, kick us off with this next one because I think you have a little bit of a different opinion, at least on the one of the teams than at least I do. But we got the Holy War. It's a ranked Holy War as well, with massive implications for the Big 12 title picture.
Definitely. And that's kind of why I think that BYU, which I'm going to assume maybe not are as big as BYU on, maybe I would be considering I had them in my playoffs and everything. But I think this is the game that they have to show them that they are kind of the team that they are. Because to sit here and say that BYU hasn't had the talent in the past couple.
Did he drop?
Yeah, he did. All right. Jackson, BYU, Utah, Holy War.
I like Utah. I really do. I think I don't know. I just like my eye test of BYU was that Colorado game. That's the only game I've really seen him play this year. And man, I just didn't really see anything. Granted, it is Colorado, but I just didn't really see anything that stood out to me in terms of just what I liked about them. I think they're a good football team. I mean, obviously they took care of Colorado, but that's not saying much. But I like Utah, man. I like Utah's uniforms. I always feel like they have a sneaky good quarterback. Yeah, I like Utah in the Holy War, Connor.
Yeah, so I'm gonna disagree with Cannon here. Hopefully he can get back in to defend his opinion. I don't think BYU's that good. It's a prove it week for them. For me, I mean, if they win this game, then yeah, I'll change my opinion. But true freshman quarterback. I mean, what they've done so far is incredible too. I thought they'd be so much worse after Retzlaff got kicked off the team this past offseason. But I don't think he's going to be able to compare. I think Utah's going to be a little bit more physical. I think Utah's kind of learning from that Texas Tech loss. Devon Dampier's a really good quarterback. And I think they're going to give BYU a lot of trouble. BYU hasn't been tested yet all year, and they're certainly going to get a big one this year. It is the Holy War. Absolutely fantastic rivalry, and I'm glad that it's kind of starting to get back into full swing, and a ranked one is even more incredible. But yeah, I just see Utah kind of taking over this game, maybe middle of the way through, like getting into the third quarter, middle of the third quarter, kind of just taking it away and planting their feet into the ground and just kind of driving BYU down a little bit, wearing them out. If Cannon comes back, we'll hop back into that game.
Yeah.
But we'll go ahead and do A&M Arkansas. I only put this one down honestly because it's a 7.5 point line or 6.5 point line. I think that's a little low, honestly. I think like we all think A&M is really good. Arkansas, I get that they tested Tennessee last week, but um, I'll get into it later when we go over Tennessee Bama. I don't think it's as impressive to test Tennessee. Not that I don't think Tennessee's a good football team. Again, I'll get into it later, but Bobby Petrino is the interim head coach. That's cool. Taylor Green's a great quarterback. I think A&M is going to win and cover this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think like Arkansas, like you said, definitely the test of Tennessee. Some people that might raise some people's eyebrows, especially with the coaching change that's going on. I like Taylor Green a lot too. I think he's a good quarterback, man. I like seeing him play. But no, I think A&M, like you said, covers and then some, dude. I really I think it's too much for Arkansas. Not that I just think they're going through this transitional period with this new head coach. Um, yeah, I like A&M a lot in this game.
Yeah, so I don't think Cannon's coming back in because his computer is completely black. Um, but maybe next week I'll let him hash out his BYU take, and maybe his take will be right. They beat Utah. So we'll just jump into the longer game breakdowns here. I'm going to slightly change up the schedule since we were just talking about A&M Arkansas, and I mentioned Tennessee Bama. Let's go into Tennessee Bama first. So I don't think Tennessee is a great football team. I think they're a good football team. Um, Mississippi State took them close, and the Mississippi State's a good football team, or at least an okay one that has potential to be good. But the Arkansas game, man, like it's the same thing. Arkansas is a okay football team. They've been in a lot of close games, but keeping it close with Tennessee just isn't. It doesn't strike me as being something that's hard to do because their defense is so bad. They get gashed. I don't think Georgia's offense is that great, and they put up 44 on the road against them. And I like the Georgia offense this year. I like Zachariah Branch. I like Gunnar Stockton as a QB for the team. You know, it's like a Haynes King. It's funny because Haynes King and Gunnar Stockton are kind of like the same type of player at QB. They're going to face each other. But I mean, Georgia has never had like elite offenses like that, and I mean they looked like an elite offense, and that offensive line looked the best they have all year on the road in Neyland Stadium against Tennessee because that Tennessee defensive front just isn't as good as it was last year, and that's fine because you've got to replace talent, and that's not easy in today's day and age, and they're still kind of in a rebuild. I think this game breakdown is pretty simple. I think Bama wins, and I think Bama covers. Uh, if they win the turnover margin, they definitely cover. You know, it's hard to predict turnovers. You can't really do it. But if they just play complementary football and do what they've done all year outside of the Florida State game, they're going to win this game, and they're going to win it convincingly.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think a lot of people like look at the Joey Aguilar situation for Tennessee and just like they see the eye candy and they're like, oh my gosh, Tennessee's a lot better than we thought they were going to be. With this being basically rebuild year for
Yeah.
Tennessee, and that's kind of weird to say. Just with just the way things look, just eye test, it looks like they're doing okay. But I think a lot of people just see that and they're like, this Tennessee team is really a lot better than they actually are. I think. Yeah, I just think Bama's the more complete team, dude. I really do.
Yeah.
What you're talking about on defense, Tennessee just doesn't. They don't do it for me, especially against a offense like Alabama's. So yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. I think a lot of people are not overrating, but they're definitely thinking that Tennessee's a lot better than they are just because of how well Joey Aguilar's played. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Tennessee, I mean, it's not a knock on them at all. They're way better than I thought they were going to be completely honest. Their starting quarterback, his first day on the team was in June or July.
Right.
So I mean, what they've been able to do is so impressive, and I think as a Tennessee fan, you have to be reassured that Heupel is the guy. I think he is.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they just got a lot of ways to go. Bama's tested. Yeah, I agree with everything you said as well. LSU Vanderbilt. We live in a college football landscape where Vanderbilt is favored to beat LSU, and that is absolutely wild. And it's not even really a down year for LSU because they're the number 11 team in the country. Um, people don't take Vanderbilt for real, and I don't get it. Well, I do get it. It's because they're Vanderbilt. But if you just took off the Vanderbilt logo, took away the name, and you just watch blind football, man, Vanderbilt. I mean, I have them in the playoffs. They are a good football team.
Yeah.
Pavia, man, like he's an explosive quarterback. They have an explosive offense, and I think this game will be low scoring because LSU's defense is very good under Blake Baker. But man, I'm sorry, I don't think the South Carolina game was great. Like, yeah, you won 20-10. You should have won by more, but you didn't because you're not a good offense. Defensively, you did exactly what you should have done. Congratulations, you're a very good defense, but there's no offensive juice. There's no explosiveness. The run game is not good at all, and Vanderbilt will find a way to win this game and get a statement win for Clark Leah and that coaching staff there.
I agree. I think this comes down to LSU's offense. I really do. I think a lot of people thought Garrett Nussmeier was going to be a lot better than he is this year, going into the season. Kind of like a Cade at Clemson. A lot of people thought Cade was going to do a lot better at Clemson this year than he's doing now. I think Nussmeier's kind of in a similar situation, which is kind of weird because he has so many like great weapons on that offense. With Nick Anderson, um, with all that wide receiver talent they have, it just it's kind of deflating watching this LSU offense play because you're like, gosh, I mean, you guys could be so good, but it's just not there. It's not
Yeah,
clicking.
I agree.
So I think that's why Vandy takes this game. Like you said, Pavia. As much of like a Pavia hater as I am, I think he just plays the game, and he's a guy. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to talk smack and back it up. But yeah, I think LSU's defense, it plays well. Like you said, I think it's low scoring, but I think it just comes down to the flat tires of the LSU offense. That's what loses them this game.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Flat tires.
Yeah.
They got a couple of them. ACC matchup: Georgia Tech and Duke. This is a really a massive game. I mean, this just based off the team's schedules the rest of the way. This is almost like it's not an eliminator, but it kind of is an eliminator because whichever team loses this game is going to need some help from the other team losing, especially Duke. If Duke wins or Duke loses this game, Georgia Tech's probably in it. Either them or Virginia, along with Miami. Virginia kind of controls their own destiny, but I think Virginia plays Duke. They might play Georgia Tech too. Anyways, losers gonna need some help. Losers gonna need the other team to lose 2 ACC games, and they're gonna have to win out. So Duke's favored to win this game. Georgia Tech's ranked. I know Cannon had him in his playoffs too. I'm not a Georgia Tech guy either. They haven't figured out. They haven't figured out offense when Haynes King is kind of down, and the Wake Forest game was the best example of that. And that onside kick call, or the call where they called him out, that is one of the worst calls I've ever seen. That is truly a game-defining referee mistake there. Cost Wake Forest the win, just 1,000%, because that call goes the other way. Wake Forest kneels the clock out. They just don't have offensive versatility when Haynes King is having an off game, and he's not an elite quarterback, so he's gonna have off games. Defensively, they're gritty. That's great, but it's a Manny Diaz Duke team. You can say the same thing about them. I think Mensa's the better quarterback. I think Duke will find a way to win a tough physical football game. I think it could be kind of sloppy. And yeah, I'm really interested to see this coaching matchup, Diaz versus Brent Key. But yeah, I just think that Duke just has a um, little bit more three-phase football, if you will. They play a little bit more complementary on all three phases of the game, and I think that's going to matter in this one. I don't think Haynes King is going to be able to kind of take over games the way he has done in the past.
I definitely agree. I thinking about this game initially, just because I'm opposite of you. I love Georgia Tech. I like Haynes King. But kind of thinking about this game for this week, I was like, man, I just don't. I don't know where Georgia Tech, like you were saying, I don't know where they lie if he's not on his game. I mean, dude's like running in for 2 rushing touchdowns, throwing for 2, and you kind of sit there and you're like, oh, wow, that's great. This guy, he's a player. He puts his body on the line, you know. But the question is there, like, what happens if this guy's not playing his best? That being said, I think this game, I think it's just a slugfest. It's hard to watch. I do think at the end of the day, I think Georgia Tech pulls out a close one. Kind of like that Wake Forest game is what I'm feeling on this. Just one that's like really close for comfort. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because I've got Georgia Tech in my ACC championship.
Yeah.
I like Minso a lot. I like Manny Diaz a lot too. I think he's doing some good things. Duke's definitely a sneaky team in the ACC this year, but I think Georgia Tech pulls out a close one.
Yeah, I mean, I had Georgia Tech in my preseason ACC championship. They haven't been what I expected them to be offensively in the passing game, especially. And
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah.
I just don't think that Duke is the team they're going to figure that out against. And yeah, but yeah, either way, I think it's going to be a slugfest. I definitely agree. It's going to be a close game either way. Um, but yeah, good to have a little bit of differing opinion there. I think Cannon probably leans Georgia Tech a lot harder in this game than you do as well. Another game involving a Georgia team. This one in Georgia. Ole Miss is coming to Athens. Lane Kiffin, Kirby Smart. Last year, Lane Kiffin beat Kirby Smart in Oxford, Mississippi. Um, this one has been such a tough one for me to pick because on one hand, I think that Georgia is the embodiment of competitive culture in college football, and that they just compete every year. And Ole Miss or Ohio State's kind of like that too, but Kirby Smart just embodies that, just being an ultra competitive guy. And they have to have this win. They cannot drop another conference game, at least right now. And to another team, or to a team like Ole Miss that might not lose, uh, they probably won't lose 3 SEC games. So they're just in a point of desperation this week, and they've got it at home in Sanford Stadium. Um, Lane Kiffin, man, Ole Miss, they're rolling right now, and they're not in a point of desperation. But with that being said, Chambliss is a different quarterback. Kowan Lacey is a different running back. Lane Kiffin is just one of the best offensive minds in the sport. Defensively, man, I thought Georgia was going to be so much better defensively with some of the portal moves they made. The linebacker from Army, upgrading talent through high school and portal on the defensive line. That secondary kind of gelling some more the offseason, a couple more acquisitions. And they're just not that. Their pass rush is bottom of the SEC or towards the bottom. And they're just a disappointing defense. This is not Kirby Smart's defense. It's year 2 in a row now of that. Um, so I look at it, I'm like, okay, you've got defensive disappointment versus Lane Kiffin's offensive prowess and a better QB. I don't think the desperation is going to be enough. I think Ole Miss is at a point right now with Lane Kiffin where they're going to be able to compete almost every year, just because I think Lane Kiffin's an elite head coach and he's up there, not better than Kirby Smart, but he's closing in on that tier of coaches. He doesn't get enough credit for what he does at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not an easy place to play at. He's had their only 11-win season in their entire program's history. and they're going to continue to roll this week. They're going to go into Athens and pull out a win.
Yeah, I agree. I think their hunger outlasts the desperation. I really do. I think they're in a situation this year where I think they just want it, and I think having that hunger, I think that outlasts Georgia's desperation, regardless of this idea that Georgia can't drop this game, but I just think that this Ole Miss team just looks determined. The quarterback, that guy is he's just a dog, and like you said, I don't think the Georgia defense is as promising as I thought they were going to be in the preseason. So I think
that week last week against Washington State, that doesn't mean anything. They didn't care about that game. They were going to win that game. They saw this game and the road ahead of them, and they just wanted to get through last week, and they did. And it was closer than it should have been, but they won. They're focused on this week. I agree. We both agree here. UGA's got some soul searching to do throughout the rest of the season and this off season, but they do have to kind of reevaluate some things because they've fallen off course of what they should be under Kirby Smart, and what Kirby Smart dude's too competitive for that. They're gonna figure things out there. It's just degrees of change, but they can't do some of that in the middle of the season. And I don't think they're gonna be able to win games like that. They didn't beat Bama at home. They took it down to the wire against Tennessee. They still got Texas. They still got Georgia Tech. So it's going to be a competitive year. It's going to be a lot of good games for Georgia to be in terms of just watchability. I think this one will be a good game too. But I think Ole Miss is going to take it.
Yeah.
All right. 2 games left. We're on a 70-minute podcast here. So Notre Dame, Southern Cal. Again, man, another desperation game. I mean, this is a true playoff game. Because I don't think, unless Southern Cal was to get into the Big Ten championship, which they could if they lose this game because this isn't a conference game. It definitely is Notre Dame. Notre Dame cannot lose this game. A 9-3 Notre Dame with their losses being Miami, A&M, and Southern Cal, great losses, but they won't have a single quality win outside of maybe Boise State. That I would consider them a quality win, but not a win that justifies those 3 losses happening like that. So they have to win this game. This has been another tough one for me. What are your thoughts going into this game?
I think this is my game of the week, dude. I really do. I think this is the game to really watch, just because I think this is winner go home for both teams, like you were saying. And I think I think both these teams have a great offense. I think USC has a top 5 pick, in the NFL draft this year in Lemon. I think it comes down to that, dude. I really do. I went back and forth on this game a lot because I like Marcus Smart a lot at Notre Dame. I think first of all, he's a good-looking dude, right? Like, best-looking college football head coach, right? Hard not to like a guy who looks like that. But no, I think Lincoln Riley's really been looking for something to prove his worth at USC, and it just hasn't come. Marcus Smart has had that moment, and Lincoln Riley hasn't. And so I think with this being like a rivalry game, with this being with this game's having such big implications in terms of the playoff, I think Lincoln Riley goes in there and gets it done. I really do. I think Notre Dame's defense good, but then again, who do they play, right? Like, I think that this is the game that'll expose a lot. Whoever wins or whoever loses, it'll expose a lot of holes in both these teams. But I think Lincoln Riley's looking for something to prove himself at USC. So I think they take care of Notre Dame. Obviously, I've got them in over Notre Dame in my playoff prediction. So I think USC takes this one.
Yeah, so I 1000% agree with you. This is game of the week. This is going to be. Sorry, Boone is Boone is biting. Um, Man, what a bunch of distractions this episode. So yeah, this is gonna be one of the games we look back on at the end of the year and be like, man, we don't know how good we didn't know how good we had it while we were watching this game.
Yeah, yeah,
This is gonna be one of the last. This might be the last time this rivalry's played for at least a couple years. Can't remember what they came to in the offseason, but a lot of offseason noise with that. I agree. Lincoln
hmm
Riley needs a statement win at Southern Cal. Last week wasn't a statement win. It was a good win, but it wasn't a statement win. Um,
yeah.
this is a statement game. This is a statement game for both teams. Marcus Freeman needs this.
Freeman.
Not for his stability, but or his job stability, but he needs it for the season because, like you said, they've got to have it to make the playoffs. Um, I think that the Mackay Lemon matchup against Leonard Wood is going to be the best matchup we see in terms of a one-on-one matchup all year. It is the leader in receiving yards in the country versus the highest graded corner off of PFF's ratings. Leonard Wood is a fantastic corner. Um, that defense has drastically played under expectation, especially the Marcus Freeman expectation. But they have a chance to right the ship. They've looked better. I think they've made some changes behind the scenes in terms of their strategy on game day and some coaching, not coaching changes, but maybe some differing assignments among the staff. Um, but like you said, their wins haven't been against anybody. The Arkansas win was good, but man, I mean that to me, they fired their coach after that. The
Yeah,
team was already kind of dead on the season. You know, they had just lost a game to Memphis where they fumbled on the 1 yard line. It was their only drive they didn't score on, or their only red zone drive that they didn't score on, and that's what cost them the game. Um, so that win, you know, whatever. The Purdue win, Purdue's a scrappy team, but you're supposed to beat Purdue. The NC State game, it's NC State. Um, Boise State game, that was a good win to me. I think Boise State's kind of riding the ship after their week one showing against a good USF team. But it's not Miami. It's not A&M. You haven't shown the ability to compete at that high level this year. Now on the flip side of that, neither has USC really. The Illinois game, man, I was very disappointed in Southern Cal in that game, and I think that's a good, but at the same time, I think it's a beneficial loss for that team because it was kind of a wake up call to show that they maybe weren't as good as they thought they were. Because I do think that they had some high belief in themselves going into that week, which they should. But at the end of the day, Lincoln Riley has to have his game, like you said. I think that there's a lot going into this game. Um, Lemon is an elite wide receiver. Mayava is, in my opinion, the best quarterback that Lincoln Riley has had, not in terms of talent, but in terms of system fit. And while CJ Carr is a really good quarterback too, I think this is the game that D'Anton Lynn, a defensive coordinator, kind of arrives and shows people that Lincoln Riley does know how to build a defense. And while it won't be him building the defense, it'll be D'Anton Lynn. It will be something that he takes seriously in his program. I actually think this game will be a little bit lower scoring. I think you'll see a little bit of a different offensive identity, more complementary style football. So maybe the under hits. I think Southern Cal is going to take this game too. And then that leaves us with our last game, Clemson SMU. I wish Cannon could get in here for that one, but doesn't look like he's in. All right. So last game, we'll be in Clemson, all three of us, this weekend. First tour visit of the season. So breaking news that some people will know: Cade Klubnik is probably not going to play this weekend. Dabo did a good job of hiding it. I didn't really buy into it earlier in the week, but he is questionable, which means less than 50% chance that he's going to play. Even if he does play, he's obviously not going to be healthy. Now, all the Clemson fans freaking out on TigerNet. I said this before we started filming. Why are they freaking out? Because all season has been how bad Cade Klubnik is, and why hasn't Chris Vizina been put in the game. Now, we have different opinions on that. All three of us do. And while Cade hasn't been a great quarterback this year, this is a huge loss for the Tiger offense.
Yep.
So I'll let you make your pick first, but before we go into actually making the picks, talk about why this game excites me so much as a fan. To me, this is like the ultimate mark for what the Clemson football DNA under Dabo is, especially now that Cade Klubnik either isn't going to play or is going to play hurt. So this is the first game since 2019 or the COVID season where our starting quarterback isn't going to be, or this could be the first game since the COVID season where our starting quarterback isn't going to start in the game from the kickoff. Trevor Lawrence had COVID in that season and missed the Notre Dame game and Boston College game. So this excites me because this is kind of one of those games where it's like our backs are already against the wall. We had championship expectations, and they just crashed and burned. 1-3 start to the season. So now we kind of righted the ship a little bit against two teams that either don't have a pulse, North Carolina, or barely have a pulse in Boston College. And now our quarterback's hurt. Backs are against the wall. It's playoff football every week. Cannot afford another loss. We already don't have a great shot at getting in. And now you've got to figure out a way to win. You've just got to figure out a way to win. We saw some great games over the past 4 years as students. Some went our way, some didn't. Last year's Clemson-South Carolina game, that fourth quarter was a great fourth quarter. The crowd got into it. The team was playing on fire, especially the defense. The Clemson-Notre Dame game 2 years ago was a fantastic game. And that kind of reminds me of what this game is. You've got to find a way to win. You got to do something you haven't done all year in some form or fashion. For Clemson, that's got to be we've got to attack the ball defensively, and we've got to do something on special teams. I don't care what it is. I don't care if we block a punt. I don't care if we down the ball twice inside the 10-yard line. I don't care if we block a field goal or make 250-plus yarders to kind of change the game. I don't care what it is. We got to do something on special teams that can flip the tide of the game, and we've got to attack the ball. Receivers have to step up in ways they haven't yet on the year. The offensive line has to play the best game they've played all season, and the running game, Randall's got to produce. And that's what makes games like these, that's what makes college football to me, are these kind of games where it just has to go right, and you just got to do it. And Dabo's had these moments before, and it's worked. And, man, this has a chance to be vintage Death Valley, too. Like, the crowd, man, I hope they bring it. I hope we bring it. It's going to be an exciting game for me to go to. I wasn't even going to go to the game, and then I just started getting fired up over it, especially when Cade Klubnik started, becoming more doubtful to play. This just has a chance to be a vintage Clemson moment, and a moment you kind of look back on as a fan and be like, man, that was an incredible week of football for this team. But I'll let you take it over here. I've talked a little bit too much. So tell us what you think on the game, who you're picking, and then I'll make my selection right after you, and we'll finish it up.
It's kind of hard to follow up after what you just said. I wholeheartedly agree, dude. I think that this game injects a lot of confidence back into Dabo. I really do. I think if it goes our way, if we see the development, if we see the grit, that made Dabo so famous, I think that if we see the things, if we see positive things, I think it injects the confidence back into Dabo.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm really, really excited to see is, and I know we kind of got to see it at the Boston College game, but I'm really excited to see how our quarterback development is going in terms of the guys that are behind our main guy. If Cade's out, we haven't got to see a lot of Vizina outside of like some, like a game where we're playing the Citadel or something like that, like a game that we're running with. So if he gets the start, if he gets the go ahead, I'm really really interested to see how that development process has gone. Especially kind of like how we were saying, we haven't really seen, we haven't had a backup start a game since that flu season, or not flu, COVID. Sorry.
Hey, call it what it is. Call a
Yeah.
spade a spade.
No, but no, I'm really excited to see Vizina play. Um, you know, I, you obviously are hearing a lot of good things about the kid. And I think some of that's coach speak. So I think if he gets the start, it'll be really interesting to see how he's developed behind Cade. But also, I agree with what you said too. Receivers have got to step up, man. They've got to make a play for this kid if he gets the start, and he's got to have time in the pocket. Um, I mean, he does have a pretty good set of legs on him. I don't know if it's Cade's level, but still, they've got to give this kid time in the pocket. And I think you've got to have, our Antonio Williams has got to step up as the veteran. He's got to be able to lead that offense as well as getting some touches to other guys. But yeah, I think. I agree, definitely agree with what you said too on special teams. Something's got to be able to inject this offense, whether that's special teams or even the crowd. Something's got to be able to inject this offense with some energy and some juice because it's going to be deflating if Cade's not out there.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with what you said. I think this is just kind of like a grunge ACC championship last year matchup. We got nice little field goal to go to become ACC champions. But I think this is a grunge match. I think SMU comes in here a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Their season's not going as well as obviously they want it to. I'm sure Kevin Jennings is wanting to play a lot better than he has. I think they come in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder with how last year went. And so I think you got a nut up or shut up in this game. And I think we take it. I think Clemson's got this game. If Cade doesn't start, it'll be a close game. Not to say if he does start, it'll be a runaway for us. I just think it'll be a lot closer, a lot tighter if we've got Vizina starting. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think we take it. I think our defense steps up a little bit against a kind of a weaker offense in SMU. I think we get it done in Death Valley.
Yeah. So while I would love for Cade Klubnik to kind of come in and just kind of gut this game out and just have a gut check game type moment, I don't think that's good for the Clemson offense because Cade is a guy who relies on his mobility. And I think that's part of the reason we've seen so much hesitation from the staff is because they thought it was going to be better, and then they get into practice and his mobility isn't there, and they're like, okay, well, he's not. I mean, Cade is not a stand in the pocket guy and sling it. He's better when he's better out of structure than he is in structure. So I would kind of rather just have the Vizina start like planned for, and I kind of think internally that that's what's being talked about in the building. I kind of like that for two reasons. Special teams knows they have to make plays, and defense knows they have to make plays. Offensively, assuming that the offense just isn't going to be the same regardless because Cade Klubnik's mobility isn't going to be as big of a threat. So Clemson, what do they have to do against SMU's defense? They have to do what they've kind of started to do in recent weeks. They've got to have a efficient ground game. I don't need to see 20-yard runs, 15-yard runs. I do need to see Randall. I do need to see Keith Adams. I do need to maybe see some, I do need to see a multifaceted approach on the ground game. Get some two-back sets in. Throw off which running back's getting the ball. Adams, I think, is our RB2. I think he should be. And, Randall's our RB1. His development has been absolutely fantastic as a running back this year under Spiller. they've got to do things in ways they haven't done it all year. Like this just has to be a Garrett Riley masterclass, because while I don't think the SMU defense is that good, and it's not, I know they're not that good. They lost a ton of talent, and they're 2 years out of the G5. Um, our offense hasn't been that good either, with Cade 100% healthy. Um, so so Garrett Riley has to figure out a way to get whoever is playing quarterback for us into the game. That's creative screens that are executed perfectly by our receivers on the perimeter, blocking and catching and running in space. That's throwing off some looks. That's doing some different things than we haven't done. That's involving the jet sweep. That's putting two backs in the game, not letting them know who's getting it. That might mean more I form. It might mean more of our jumbo package on a 3rd and 1. Let's just go ahead and throw Peter Woods out there, and if we don't get it, then we got a 4th and 1 to do the same thing again. It's going to take a very layered approach on offense. Efficiency, consistency has got to be the threat here. I don't think the big play is going to be there. I do think receivers are going to have to step up. They're going to have to win balls in a way that they haven't done this season so far. It's going to have to kind of look like the South Carolina game last year, even though we lost. Receivers were winning jump balls all game long. That's what's got to happen for this offense to get anything going. We've already talked about special teams defensively. Kevin Jennings, most dynamic quarterback we've played. He's better than Haynes King. He'll be better than Darian Mensah. I think he's better than Thomas Castellanos. I don't think he's better than Lenoris, but that offense is just putrid. So, I mean, who knows? Who knows what they'll be Thanksgiving weekend? But right now, it's not as big of a threat as this SMU offense is. Brett Lashley's a great coach, a great offensive mind, and they have a good tandem of playmakers that allow Kevin Jennings to work. Kevin Jennings is one of the best backfield creators at quarterback. He does a great job of escaping the pocket, escaping sacks, escaping pressure. So it's funny because this is kind of a positive and a negative for me. Tom Allen absolutely smoked Kevin Jennings last year in the first round of the playoffs when he was the DC at Penn State. Now, what scares me about that is that it was at Penn State. It was a cold weather game for a team that's from Dallas, Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area, so not used to that weather. And now they have film on how they're going to attack, how Tom Allen attacks that offense, so they get to prepare for that. This is going to be the game where guys like Sammy Brown really kind of make a legacy for themselves at Clemson, because this is a type of game where a couple years ago, Skalski would have absolutely torn up this offense. He did it at Wake Forest in DJ's first year as a full-time starter. This is the type of game where Ben Boulware would ragdoll Lamar Jackson, right? Like dynamic quarterbacks coming into the building, and the linebacker, whoever we're using as a spy, or however we're using to get our pass rush, whoever we're using in the middle of the field, absolutely makes a couple of game-changing plays to kind of flip the game on its head. So that's got to happen. I think Sammy Brown's our best bet for that. Sammy Brown has to have a huge game. Tackling has to be perfect this game. There can't be missed tackles. They're too good in space as an offense to be missing tackles. They get the ball into space really efficiently, and then they have guys who make plays in that space. So it's scary. It's a scary matchup. There's a lot of bias in this pick. I don't like picking against Clemson. I rarely do it. I just think they're going to gut it out. And if they don't gut it out, it's going to be an SMU blowout. Like it's either a Clemson gut check win, or it's an SMU blowout. I think that there's going to be so much juice behind the team to come in and defend Death Valley, something they haven't done this year really, outside of the Troy game and like whatever to that. We've lost to South Carolina the last 2 times we've played them at home. They've ended our 40-game winning streak 3 years ago at home. I think there is going to be a lot of juice. The players are already talking about it in the interviews for the week. I hope the crowd is juiced. I think it will be. You got to just step up and defend the Valley. And it's like you said, it's time to just put up or shut up. And I just think that somehow, some way, whatever we do, whoever is throwing the football, handing the football off, taking the snap, we're going to just figure out a way to do it. It might not be pretty. It might kind of suck to watch. There's probably going to be a lot of moments where it's like, come on, like, absolutely, what was that play? But this is kind of the game where, like, Dabo loves, because backs are just, they're not against the wall. They're on the edge of a cliff. And I think that we're going to figure out a way to pull out a super, super tight contested ball game and keep our slim odds at playoff hopes alive. SMU, they're perfect in conference play right now, so it will just be a small blemish for them. I know they won it based off the ACC championship last year. I just think talent level will just be a little bit different too. We've just got more talent. I think that we're going to have a little bit more juice. And I think that we've got a better coaching staff, and it's time for the guys that we pay big money to coach to go out and coach their tails off and just figure out a way to get it done. I think we'll figure out a way to get it done. I'll take Clemson to win this game. If the line is still at 5.5, I know it's been going down. I'll take SMU to cover, though. Yeah, I don't think this will be a runaway Clemson game. It'll be one score, less than a touchdown for us to win it.
I like that a lot.
All right. Talked a lot on that one. That's my real game of the week. Outside of Notre Dame, Southern Cal. So it sucks that Cannon kind of got booted out there. Not sure what happened there. This episode would have gone for a lot longer, but a solid week one for us as a show. Halfway through the season here, finally getting it going, and it's going to be a good week of football. We'll have a lot to talk about next week. We got to figure out a way to get these episodes a little bit shorter. But yeah, thanks for hopping on the show. See you
next for having me, bro.
Time. And see you this weekend in Tiger Town.
See you then, bro.
See you.